Hey everybody, Slater here at Pantac Invitational, the Eastern stop of the Dew Tour. Well, I caught up with a guy who's had some success out here. We got Nick Gepper. Nick finished second on the first stop out west. Third place finish here in Killington last year. Nick, you guys are checking out the course. Got some wind out there though today. How's that affecting your preparations today?
You know, you just got to be careful. You got to be aware of the conditions. The wind's picking up a little bit, so everyone's kind of skeptical on what tricks they should do, how big they should go. But the wind's dying down a little bit, so everyone's hoping to get the semifinals off today.
I've heard a lot of comparisons between the eastern stop here and the western stops. We've had a little lack of snow here out east this year, where you're on some pretty hard snow. How do you compare the conditions, Killington to out west?
The course they built for us is pretty comparable, but the conditions, it's always going to be a little colder, a little bit more firm. But yeah, I mean, the vibe is the same. Everyone's having fun. Everyone's pretty stoked on the course. And yeah, I mean, it's comparable for sure.
Are we going to see Nick Gepper back on the podium here at Killington?
I'm hoping so. I'm working hard and going to try and do it.
I bet you're going to do it. Good luck. Be careful, all right?
Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, Nick. Hey everybody, Slater back here at the Start 10th Dew Tour Pantac Invitational. Well, I've caught up with a guy who's actually a living legend in his own mind, but our mind too. The COB is Kerry Miller. Kerry, I just met you this week. Yep. A pleasure to see you up here again.
Oh, I got to be here.
Yeah,
I got to be here with my kids.
So, you were mentioning to me. Let's talk a little bit about Wendell's Academy, which is something you're affiliated with, right. And this is where. You know, this is what you wonder, how do these kids learn all these jumps? It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of training off snow.
Yeah, basically, because these kids are mostly teenagers, you've got to keep them in an educational system that's going to provide them access to be able to train and still be able to keep their education up. It's a big requirement for myself and for the parents of these kids that they manage to keep their high school educations up and carry pretty good GPAs, and our kids do that traditionally. Mm-hmm. You know, so they're an online school with live teachers that go with us all the time. To make sure the kids are staying up with their studies, and yet that allows them to be on the snow quite a bit. And of course, being at Mount Hood, we have year-round skiing. So these kids are skiing an average of 300, 325 days a year. So the kids that we've got tend to go through well or do well, like Nick and quite a few others, Alex Palou, Marchand, and so on, because they're here. They just have that much access to snow. Yeah. And they have that much access to the educational system to work for them and also be able to get on snow and do the contest. So kind of a good mix. And it's
obviously a very rounded program, but it speaks to the dedication of these athletes to, I mean, not every kid you could put in this situation and have him keep up with his studies and get to this level of competition.
No, it's a rare kid that will sit here and try and put that kind of work into it. And I'm pretty happy, again, with Nick and with Alex, because they're both very, very dedicated kids. I've got a plethora of them right now that they're coming through. There's a bunch right behind these two. They're going to be quite spectacular also. But no, they want to be serious athletes, and yet they realize that, they've watched the older pros and realize that, this is not your life. This is something you do with your life. Mm-hmm. You have to prepare to make the next steps. And they've seen a lot. We do a lot of industry trips where kids will find out, what do you do after you when you're not skiing anymore? Mm-hmm. You're not skiing professionally. So they go to a lot of the manufacturers. We have a plethora of them in the Portland, Seattle area. They get to go to take factory tours. They talk to the design people. They talk to marketing people, and they get a real background about what I can do after I'm done with my skiing career or on snow career. So it's kind of a good mix. But like I said, they have to be pretty dedicated and want to do this because it's tough. It's a lot of stops, a lot of travel, a lot of demands on their education. But pretty happy with the mix of kids I've got.
When I had the pleasure to meet you the other night at Northern Ski Works, there's my cheap plug for the shop. Okay. You
fitted about 5 of my kids in there at Dalbello boots. It was wonderful.
Yeah, we did. We spent several hours with Kerry's young charges here and got them all done up in some new liners. But you mentioned to me that you were actually one of the first guys doing the freestyle tour. You were a hot dogger back then. That's what we called you.
That's way too long ago.
Well,
not talking about.
I'm bringing it up.
Time.
I'm bringing it up because number one, you really helped push this sport into acceptance. And get it recognized as a United States ski team sport at the time when it was only really racing, I would say.
We kind of been through all those transitions where we went from particularly Alpine. I was one of the guys that kind of helped organize freestyle for USSA and helped start a couple of divisions and kind of got freestyle in the mix where it became an Olympic sport. Mm-hmm. Kind of helped with some of the snowboard people do the same thing. And, of course, now this sport, free ride, is now an Olympic sport. So I've been kind of involved in each three mixes of seeing that happen. It's amazing the similarities between the three of them, but also amazing the amount of continuity between the three of them. Corrections, continuity and similarity to it. Because they all have a desire to get there, and it's how do we get to the chart and course of the Olympics. You know, the great thing about freestyle is a different ball game because you really only have the Olympics for freestyle. There's no pro mogul tour anymore. There's certainly no pro aerial tour. My one son won my youngest adopted son won a silver medal, in Vancouver. But this is where you go. Snowboarders and freeriders have a well-established tour that's been in existence before it went to the Olympics. So it's kind of a different demagogue. They don't necessarily have to be confined to the Olympic model. There's too many things that will allow them to access. It allows a whole lot more participation, too, because there's so many different tours going on, so many different events. These kids get a real chance to filter through the system before they decide this is what they want to do. You know, for a lot of them, Olympics is one of those gold rings you reach for, but it's not the only ring that you're reaching for. So it allows these kids to get quite a bit of access and how they want to approach it. The greatest advent for going to the Olympics for freeride is for the ladies, because I have a hard time getting ladies, you know, be respected as far as athletes in this sport and being looked at as athletes in this sport, because they all have to go to the Olympics. The Olympics has female participation. So it's heightened the awareness of bringing women into the sport.
I got one final question for you. You've been involved in sport over 40 years. Did you think 40 years ago you would see what you're seeing here today in Killington, the level of athleticism?
No, absolutely not. You know, we're back in the old days, like I said, with Stein Erickson and Tom Leroy and Art Fuhrer Jr., where stunt skiing was a thing we just occasionally did for lots of grins and giggles. You know, I saw a lot of transition coming to freestyle, but, you know, this is like freestyle is skateboarding on off-axis maneuvers that have come back in. So I didn't think I'd see it, but I'm glad I saw it because it keeps a whole new generation of kids coming back to these ski fields, the ski mountains. You got to stop and think, who's going to buy the $500,000 condos in 10 years or 20 years from now? Yeah. Those kids are out here doing these sports now. Awesome. It's a great way to keep the continuum going. Keep kids interested in participating so we have a future.
The future's looking bright from what I've seen. Kerry Miller, we thank you for your time. And when you see
time left, you know, I'm just going to die any second now.
When you see Stein, tell him to come pick his boots up for me.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back.